gentlemen, we want to welcome you to an all-new edition of Boxing 411. Guys, happy Tuesday night to everybody. Before we introduce our featured guest, we do have to remind everyone that the show is brought to you by FightSoccer.com and Box.Buzz, B-U-Z-Z. Guys, for all the latest boxing news, please visit Box.Buzz or FightSoccer.com. Also brought to you by In Rod We Trust. Boy, guys, if you're looking for a home in the South Texas area, please go visit In Rod We Trust on Facebook. But, guys, this would not be an episode of Boxing 411 without the counsel of our very good friend, the always insightful Mr. Rodney Green. Rodney, how the heck are you, brother?
Feeling well, and, man, I am so excited to talk about what happened this past Saturday night, bro. Oh, man. Yeah. I'm getting into it. I feel good, and it's going to be a great show, so let's get to it, bro.
Well, I tell you what, man. This is something, and once again, man, going into this fight, most people were on the Vasyl Lomachenko bandwagon saying this is way too soon for this kid. At age 23, it's going to be seemingly impossible to deal with the footwork, and he is seemingly overconfident. He and his dad both going into this, but they obviously knew something that no one else did. Their preparation was absolutely incredible for this event. Their fight plan, Teofimo's execution of the fight plan, their scouting, and the assessment of Vasyl Lomachenko's strengths and weaknesses were seemingly spot on. I think, to be honest with you, Rodney, they had the perfect and most effective game plan for a real technical wizard like Vasyl Lomachenko. So, guys, scorecards, it was a unanimous decision victory for Teofimo Lopez with scorecards 11 rounds to 1, 9 rounds to 3, and 8 rounds to 4. Before we get into the scorecards, Rodney, what was your assessment and what were you thinking as the fight was unfolding, one round at a time?
Well, I want to go back before the fight started when I saw him and his wife and their child in the backstage before they went to the ring. I saw a certain calm that kind of prepared me to where, you know what, man, this guy seems very composed. And he went out there and fought the same way. I mean, I didn't foresee him showing that type of poise, very composed, a very calculated fight. And you got to give his dad some credit, though, Joseph. Man, we have to give his dad some credit because, again, some of us were thinking, you know what, he's just a loudmouth. You know, they had the perfect game plan. And they knew it all along because, see, it became very evident to me after round 2. Yep, even me. I had called it wrong. I predicted, I didn't foresee that outcome, and I can't take any way from Teofimo and his camp, his father. Flawless, man, game plan, performance, and the execution, though, Joseph. The execution, I love one thing that they did that I thought was brilliant, and it reminded me of a young Floyd. The way he fought and would throw that sweeping left and right hook, it prevented Vasyl from doing his lateral movement, and it exposed the Vasyl where he really can't fight going backwards. That's why I say you've seen so many times he was going up against the ropes. I've never seen that in a Lomachenko fight where he would just go straight back and would even go all the way back to the ropes. But again, just very shrewd scout work by Teofimo and his team, and flawless execution. And again, man, what can you say? He made a lot of us eat crow. And, man, just congrats to the young man. And, hey, maybe a star was born this past Saturday night, Joseph.
You know what, brother? I'm going to go ahead and say it. A star was born this past Saturday night. You know what? And here's why. I'm going to quote, and I'm going to jump to his quotes post-fight, right? This is what he had to say about what's next. And he said, look, this is the new generation. Quote, we're bringing back what the old school was. We fight the best, and you push for the best. I'm not here to pick and choose who I want to fight because I want to defend my title and keep that O on my resume. Who knows what my figures are going to, if they're going to go up or if they're going to go up after this, how much I make, whatever. I mean, everyone wants to be like Floyd Mayweather. In order to be like Mayweather, in order to be like Money Mayweather, you've got to be pretty boy first. You got to fight those guys that they think you're not going to win. You got to fight the likes of those guys that are undefeated, and they're good fights in order to make those millions that people want to make. End quote. And he went on to say, you know what? It's people just want that coin right away. They want that. They want to be celebrities before they're champions. They go out and they buy the gold chains. They make it rain at the strip clubs. Well, you know what, man? It's all about daring to be great in this business. Fans want to be inspired, and that's the only way to truly make your mark in this sport. You've got to dare to be great. Teofimo, he had the stones to make that leap into the elite, and it really paid off in a resounding way. And I'll tell you what, Bob Arum leading the forge for the boxing business, the fight, and it was just reported today. And once again, I was told this on the Sunday night show, and I reported this on Sunday night, but it's official now. According to Nielsen Media Research, the main event was watched by an average audience of 2.7 million people. The viewership peaked towards the end of the main event at almost 2.9 million, right? So this becomes the most watched boxing event on U.S. TV since Jeff Horn upset Manny Pacquiao in 2017. Once again, guys, you can't understate this. Right? And we've been telling you guys this since we've been back on the air. Boxing, great fights have to be presented in front of the largest audience possible if we hope to make another mainstream resurgence in the sport. Your thoughts on as to why and what made this such a successful event in terms of ratings and viewers?
Well, I think, for one, it was a marquee matchup. It had the elements of, the seasoned veteran versus the up-and-coming, Teofimo and Brash and all this trash talking. So that combined, then the platform as well, ESPN. See, a good thing about it being on ESPN is that, you don't have to have Showtime or HBO. You can get it just by having cable TV, and you don't want to minimize that because it allows you to appeal to a broader base, and I believe that's another reason. But all in all, I think that the most important thing, Joseph, it was the best fighting the best, okay? So whenever you have the best fighting the best, everyone's going to have an opinion about it. Everyone's going to have a thought of how the fight's going to play out, and eventually everybody's going to want to tune in. And I think you saw that Saturday, and you can't minimize that enough, though. And it just shows you the demand is still there. And once again, when the best fight the best and you have it on regular TV, you will get these results. You had casuals that, watch this fight. And that's what you want. So, as I said, it just shows you the brilliance of Top Rank, Bob Arum. They've landed on their feet at ESPN, and these are very, very encouraging numbers, Joseph. Very encouraging numbers. So I think what this is going to do right here is going to set a new precedent, though. Because, see, now you know, you're going to have these guys who was trying to justify, you know, pay-per-view and $74, $75. Nope. We just saw something that we didn't even have to pay for, which was, you know, way better than any kind of pay-per-view that you can present to us. So as I said, man, the numbers at 2.9 or 3 million, I didn't foresee that. I personally thought maybe, you know, $1 million, 1.5 million, you know. I wasn't expecting it for it to be so overwhelming with viewership. But again, I was wrong about a lot of things on Saturday night, and I'm not afraid to admit it. But as I said, just a great product, great night of boxing, and I mean, I felt so good about the sport, Joseph, after that fight. I really did. I felt good about everything, and for once, we don't hear a lot of complaining, belly aching, upset. I mean, just the whole night, man, it was a good card. And I tell you what, Top Rank, oh, boy, they got some talent, Joseph. They got some talent. and they got the platform to showcase.
Yep.
So, yeah, they going into strong in 2021, bro.
Yeah, so congratulations to both fighters for agreeing to take this fight on mainstream ESPN, free ESPN. And, you know, I'm going to go back to Teofimo's comments, right, post-fight. And I'm going to repeat this just so everyone understands that this kid, and this is why I said a star is born, because not only do you have the physical and mental gifts inside the ring, but he gets it. He and his dad get it. And under the tutelage and guidance of Bob Arum and Bruce Trampler, Brad Goodman, all the knowledgeable Hall of Fame guys at Top Rank, but this kid and his dad, they get the big picture. Now, I'm going to say something. I'm going to repeat this, quote, everyone wants to be like Money Mayweather. In order to be like Money Mayweather, you got to be like Pretty Boy first. You got those guys who think that they're, or you have to fight those guys that they think you're not going to win. You got to fight the likes of those guys that are undefeated. And it's a good fight in order to make millions of people, or make those millions that people want to make. You know, that was a stab at Gervonta Davis.
Yep.
You know it.
Yep.
Because he was talking about,
yeah.
You know, these guys want to wear the gold chains. They want to beat their chests like they're pay-per-view stars. Well, how many people do you think are realistically going to see Gervonta Davis fight Leo Santa Cruz? How many people are going to see that fight? Compared to the 2.9 million who tuned in to the riveting and dramatic 12th round of this past Saturday's fight, which was almost 3 million, 2.9. How many people compared to that are realistically going to tune in to see Gervonta Davis versus Leo Santa Cruz for $75?
Yeah, I mean, that's, you know, you definitely can foresee how that's really can possibly blow up in Mayweather Promotions space. I don't think the demand is there, okay? The star power is not there as well, okay? And that's a bad mix. So, as I said, you know, what we saw Saturday, that's throwback boxing all the way around. We saw two guys that, you know, was willing to risk it, especially Teofimo, man. He had the guts, he had the nuts, and as I said, man, everything I thought of that young man prior to the fight has enhanced tenfold from his performance, and the way he carried himself afterwards as well. You know, man, he definitely has wisdom beyond his years. And, man, what can we say? So whatever direction that he goes, Mac, I just hope that we're able to witness it again on a similar platform like we did this Saturday night with another quality opponent as well. And I think that's going to bode well for him, and it's going to bode well for the sport. But the new generation is here, and I love it. I love it how he says the old days are over where you pick and choose and this and that. You know, I like the fact to see a guy say, you know what, I want to fight him. I want to show everybody that, you know what, Devin Haney is not the. I mean, I love that right there. The way he takes he takes command of his career and says, "This is the fight I want, man." I mean, see, that's what's been lacking in boxing for so many years. Now we're getting back to that. That's going to set a new precedent, and that's going to bode well for the sport because I think what we saw Saturday night, that's going to be the standard right there. That's going to be the new standard. And it's gonna be hard to justify paying $75, $85 for pay-per-view. You know, this is the worst thing that could have happened to Mayweather Promotions at this time, I believe, trying to have this fight and ask the fans to pay $75.
Especially on an evening when we've got two excellent main events going on the same day. Earlier that day across the pond, you've got a riveting and consequential heavyweight big-time fight to determine the WBO mandatory challenger for Anthony Joshua's title. That's Alexander Usyk, a top pound-for-pound guy, taking on Derek Chisora in his first very big test in the heavyweight division. And, you know, as we've seen with Vasyl Lomachenko, they fight in a very similar style. Obviously, Anatoly Lomachenko, well, he helped cultivate the specimen that is Alexander Usyk. And how is he going to fare when he's faced with a relentless bull in the ring? Now, we'll get back to that a little bit later on in the show. We'll also get back to Gervonta Davis versus Leo Santa Cruz towards the tail end of the program as well. Let's get back to this past Saturday night's main event. Before we start talking about more of his post-fight commentary, because I'll tell you what, he made a believer out of me, not only during the fight, but after the fight, how he presented himself, how he answered all of the journalists' questions, showing up to the final press conference or the post-fight press conference dressed in a suit and tie. This kid has stardom written all over him, and he is very mature, wise beyond his years. But let's go back to the fight. What did Teofimo Lopez do that was so effective? And you could see it from the first round. You said it, Rodney. And the most impressive things, I think, and this is why I said their preparation for this was immaculate. Their assessment of Lomachenko's strengths and weaknesses with Joey Gamache, Teofimo Sr., and their preparation in the gym was incredible. In the first round, you look at his feet, how he positioned himself, moving forward slowly and cutting off that angle, making sure that his front foot was on the outside of Lomachenko's front foot so he couldn't pivot around him. He took away that pivot. So Lomachenko, ordinarily, what he'll do is he'll move laterally from side to side, but there was only one way he could move from the outset. Because of the jab and because of his feet always lining up on the outside, the right side of Vasyl Lomachenko, he only had one way to go. Now, most of the time, he likes to shoot off the jab, right, Vasyl Lomachenko, and then immediately pivot around him to the right. But you can't do that if your opponent's front foot is outside of yours. So he was uncharacteristically just moving to one side into the power hand of Teofimo Lopez. And Teofimo Lopez made his presence felt immediately, shooting the right hand to the body. And Teofimo Lopez, ordinarily, he uses his left-hand jab as a rangefinder. Well, not this time. He stuck Vasyl Lomachenko with it to the body and head, using it in sporadic intervals. I love the new wrinkles he added to his already impressive arsenal of punches as well. Like you stated, the sweeping right hook to the body and head, a la Sugar Shane Mosley, brother. Also, the right uppercut underneath when Vasyl Lomachenko tried to move into range. It was all working. And as soon as, and this was the most shocking part of it, Rodney, because he had already established that speed and explosive power, right? He was fainting, and it was freezing Lomachenko. Usually it's the other way around.
Yep.
Teofimo, usually if Lomachenko, whenever he fights a counterpuncher, and we talked about this leading up to the show, he always seems to have success against counterpunchers because he freezes them as he feints and he tries to move into range. They don't know when he's going to get off or move into range. Well, Teofimo Lopez was winning not only the jab contest, but the feinting exhibition. Lomachenko was falling for it every single time and didn't know what to do. It was shocking. Now, your thoughts on how you, what you were thinking as the fight was unfolding, brother.
Well,
because now, Rodney, we're looking at, what were your thoughts when you saw round 1 go by, then round 2 go by, then 3, then 4, then 5, then 6, midway through the fight? What were you thinking when Vasyl Lomachenko had only landed 26 punches through 6 rounds?
Well, from the onset, one thing I noticed, and by it not being a crowd in the arena or, very low attendance, I think maybe only 100 people was allowed to attend.
Mm-hmm.
You could hear the velocity and the steam that Teofimo had on his punches. You could hear it. When he would throw them, you could hear it. So he got Lomachenko attention early and often. You come into this line then, I got something for you. So he got into retreat mode because I could hear it. You could hear the thunder that he was bringing with those punches. That was one of the first things I noticed. 2, that I started looking at it that, as great as Lomachenko is, he really can't fight that effective going backwards. Unlike Floyd or some of or Roy Jones or anything. He had problems. And I was like, well, maybe they'll make an adjustment. Okay, maybe, because we're so used to, always Tom Brady or Bill Belichick or Lomachenko, guys that are known for making their adjustments, guys that are known to say, you know what, we're going to take our opponent's best strength and turn it into a weakness. I was waiting like, okay, when is it coming? And sure enough, Joseph, round 1 went, round 2 went, round 3. But after round 3 went, I said, you know what, man, it's going to be a long night for Lomachenko, though. I said it. I saw it.
Yep.
And again, if you really have watched the sport, it took me 3 rounds to really, because you know what, he had no answer. He couldn't overcome those impediments, though. And once again, we got to start giving Teofimo Dad his props, though. I can't emphasize that enough, because when I say a masterful game plan, and you had the perfect pupil to implement it. Okay, everybody can't implement that game plan, Joseph.
That's right.
But his son, someone else, again, Gary Russell Jr. has fast hands. Other guys, what's our guy? Linares.
Axeman, Nicholas Walters.
Axeman, Linares can fight.
Or Linares also. Yep.
But man, the total package, though, we saw it this past Saturday night. This kid had it all, though, Joseph. We knew he was athletic. Okay, we knew, that he was a very unique fighter, a great puncher. But what we didn't really know, the mental aspect, Joseph. Man, this kid showed poise under pressure. That man, he shocked everybody, though. He showed great control, great discipline. But, see, as I rewatched the fight, if he would have really put the gas on, like in the first 3 rounds, because I think maybe he was expecting more as well, I think Lomachenko would have really been a little bit more in trouble because, man, those body punches, though, those sweeping hooks, Lomachenko felt those, and it really discouraged him, though. It really discouraged him, and it took out a lot of starch in him very early at the onset of the fight. So, as I said, man, just a great job by Team Lopez, and this kid's going to be a problem, and as I said, he's only going to become a better fighter now because he's been in a class with a master. It's kind of like, a young man outshining or outdoing Einstein. Well, once you do that, I mean, it's going to be pretty tough for somebody else to, outsmart you or outwit you. And combined with his athletic ability, I can see this kid going up to high as maybe like 154, Joseph, and continuing to dominate if they really masterfully craft his career. So, yeah, man, it's no ceiling and it's no limit how high this kid can go.
Yeah, and that's if he stays focused and he continues to be dedicated to the sport like he and his dad seem to be. Because I did notice a few things he has to work on. But let's focus on Vasyl Lomachenko right now. Do you remember 2 weeks ago when I saw the final virtual press conference and I told you, I said, look, maybe I'm just drinking the Teofimo Kool-Aid right now, but right now, and this is before I saw the fight tape and conducted my due diligence for Fight Saga, I said, maybe it's just me, but I'm jumping on I'm leaning towards Teofimo Lopez because I saw something I didn't like when I saw the Vasyl Lomachenko virtual press conference. He didn't look good. He didn't look motivated. He didn't look he looked like there was something bothering him. And when I heard him say, well, you know what, I don't feel most comfortable at 35. My most comfortable weight division is 130 pounds. And you remember when I told you that, I said, okay, there's something wrong here. That's not good. Well, guys, it was just announced a few hours before our show. And I'm going to read you this. Now, once again, guys, let me just first preface this by telling you guys, Vasyl Lomachenko and his camp, they don't make excuses, right? They didn't say anything before the fight. They didn't say anything immediately after the fight. But, yeah, I could tell that there was something bothering him. And once again, I've been interviewing Vasyl Lomachenko since his Salido fight in San Antonio. Even after the low blows, even after Orlando Salido came in and fought him at 146 the day of the fight, even after all of that, was it the conditioning? And I was trying to get some answers. I was probing him and Igis Klimas. And I asked him, were the low blows, the rabbit punches, was it dirty tactics on the inside? Was that a real problem for you guys? Was it because he was so heavy he was able to take your best punches? Was this just too soon? And Vasyl Lomachenko looked at me, and then he looked and he started speaking Ukrainian to Igis Klimas. And Igis Klimas told me, well, we don't take anything away from Orlando Salido. We don't agree with the judges' scorecards. We felt we won the fight. But, you know, we're not going to complain, though. We're just take it and learn from it. This is what the judges saw, so we have to agree with it. But, yeah, we're not going to take anything from Orlando Salido. Congratulations to him. And if you look at the punch stats on this, it's almost a carbon copy of his performance against Orlando Salido. Because in that fight, if you guys remember, he fought at a very measured and deliberate pace. And he didn't turn it on until late, almost stopping Orlando Salido in that fight. Well, it looked like he tried to implement the same game plan, and, well, it had the same result. He lost. Now, punch stats don't always tell the picture of a fight, but in this case, it's very revealing. In rounds 1 through 7, Vasyl Lomachenko only landed 31 punches through 7 rounds. In the final 5 rounds of action, from 8 to 12, he landed 110. Now, what really cemented the victory for Teofimo Lopez, and obviously, looking at the scorecards, yeah, it looked like Lomachenko needed a knockout in the final round, and it looked like he was trying to go for it until Teofimo Lopez hurt him in the final minute of the fight. And it looked like he resigned after that. Lopez, like a champ, not leaving anything up to chance, landed 50 out of 98 punches thrown in the final round of action. That says it all. But I'll say this, Rodney. The reason why I'm discussing or pointing to Vasyl Lomachenko not making excuses, because just a couple of hours ago it was reported by Kevin Iole of Yahoo Sports that Vasyl Lomachenko underwent right shoulder surgery on Monday to repair his torn labrum, less than 48 hours after dropping a unanimous decision to Teofimo Lopez. Right? And so when discussing this, and this was the surgeon who actually came out and now my guess is that, because once again, like I said, guys, Vasyl Lomachenko and his camp, they don't make excuses, right? They didn't back then, and they're not now. My guess is that this is Bob Arum's doing, wanting to reveal this, right, for his fighter. So this is what the surgeon had to say. He said, quote, "When he came in from the Ukraine for his last stages of preparation for the fight, he was having some difficulty with the shoulder, with the right shoulder. It turns out he had badly bruised the rotator cuff and chipped a piece of cartilage, which we didn't realize at the time. But we knew he'd badly bruised the rotator cuff and badly bruised the bone where the rotator cuff attaches to the shoulder. That was roughly 6 weeks before the fight, and we got him to where he was comfortable enough to train. He said he was able to train okay, but it continued to cause him pain during the fight. We operated on him last night, and he had what we call a hemorrhagic thickened bursitis. That's the tissue that lubricates and cushions the rotator cuff, which is where we had treated him and injected him before the fight. On the inside of the shoulder where he had previously dislocated it, he had chipped the cartilage on the inside of the socket. That's right next to the previous surgical reparation, so I did a small touch-up of the repair so I could cover up the bare cartilage in front of the shoulder," end quote. Now, once again, this isn't Vasyl Lomachenko's camp saying this. This was revealed by the operating surgeon. My guess, Bob Arum actually wanted to make this public. Your thoughts on this, and does this create a potential demand for a rematch? Because as of right now, Lopez has stated, you know what, why? Why a rematch? And Lomachenko hasn't said anything, and obviously is going to have to, he's going to have to undergo rehab, right? But this remains the biggest money fight available for both men. Could we see a rematch? And looking at these numbers on Nielsen Media Research, should we see a rematch for bigger money in front of a live audience sometime in 2021?
I mean, you know what? Yes and no. I can see Teofimo's disposition to where he say, you know what, I did what I had to do, and I'm ready to move on to new horizons. But also I can see why Bob would interject what happened and what went on, because, again, if Lomachenko goes back to 130, it still creates that, interest in to say, you know what, maybe we'll see a different Lomachenko with his repaired labrum and being down at a lower weight class where he can fight Shakur Stevenson, and create that buzz. So as I said, we possibly could see them fighting, Joseph, but if I'm a betting man, I really think that the only business that Team Lopez is going to really, they may entertain Devin Haney, but I think they're going to go ahead and go towards 140. I don't see them. Now, again, if Bob, says it makes a financial sense, maybe so. But I think the way Teofimo has kind of shot to stardom this past Saturday night, it gives them a wealth of options to choose from. And I think, if Bob, being the shrewd promoter that he is, though, you might want to preserve Lomachenko for a few more extra years because, he is getting he's around 32. He's not getting any younger. Not saying that he's on the downward spiral. But, again, if you want to preserve him a little bit longer, you might want to just leave him at 130 to where he continues to, fight in his natural weight class where he feels most comfortable. But let me say this, though. Right, they don't make excuses. And I respect Lomachenko in, showing class and defeat and, going about it the right way. But as I said, though, I don't want anyone to think that was the reason why he lost, in my humble opinion. And as far as his punch output, it being the way it being so low as it was in the Toledo fight, I think the Toledo fight, well, you know what, he was a young kid, and, again, that was his first title fight, man. That's just, it's very difficult. But as I said, I'm looking at it and really simplifying it. Trust me, man. I felt Teofimo's punches come through that TV. I heard the wind and velocity. And trust me, man, it's an old saying in boxing. You got to give somebody something to think about before they start, while they're trying to close that distance. And, man, I think, you know what? He didn't really realize the power this kid had. Man, I don't think Lomachenko, in all his professional fights, and I know he's had, his amateur fights, over 400 fights, and his professional fights. What he saw Saturday night, no, I doubt very seriously it was something that he was used to. And to me, yes, he may have had an injury or had some issues, but, man, trust me, sometimes, man, the truth that is across the ring with you. And, I think that was the sole reason why, in my opinion, to why his punch output wasn't, at his normal rate. But nevertheless, though, I just want to wish, Vasyl and his team a speedy recovery. And it's still a demand for him to fight, too, Joseph. He can go to 130. Shakur Stevenson already saying, you know what, I want that fight. That's another good money fight, though. It'll be very interesting what the demand is. Me personally, as I said, I would love to see Bob and Eddie Herron possibly work together. I would love to see maybe before the end of 2021, Top Rank in the Zone do a Fury, Anthony Joshua, have an undercard, maybe Devin Haney, Teofimo Lopez. That's a possibility. Or if not, do 140 where he can fight Josh Taylor. That's a possibility. So we'll see. Again, man, Top Rank has a wealth and host of options. And I'm looking forward to it, though, to see what direction they're going to take this kid next, though. I really am, Joseph.
And that's a very, very good point. But, and I very well said, and I agree 100%. Couple of things. First and foremost, what you stated was absolutely spot on. Lopez is the reason why Vasyl Lomachenko was so tentative in the first 7 rounds of that fight. It wasn't the shoulder, because keep in mind, he suffered a much worse shoulder injury midway through that fight with Jorge Linares, and he knocked the guy out.
Knocked him out.
Okay? Yep. This is what, and second of all, guys, and once again, boxing fans are a little ridiculous at times. I've already seen, as soon as this was announced, I've already seen comments on forums and Twitter and that sort of thing. Oh, he's making the Manny Pacquiao excuse. Man, this is vintage Top Rank, man. This is how they roll. Oh, man. No Lomachenko, man. Call him No Lomachenko now because he quit. Okay. First of all, guys, this is nothing new to boxing. I've been covering this sport for a very long time, and I have never met a fighter that feels 100% going into a major fight. In fact, one of the very first interviews I ever did was with Jesse James Leija, former super featherweight champion. Guys, one of the first things he said was, look, I suffered from this chronic rib injury, and it plagued me for the last 6 years of my career, and it pretty much just knocked me into retirement. The pain got so excruciating, I just couldn't deal with it anymore. I'm like, well, why didn't you just let it heal properly, and why didn't you just rest? And he goes, well, I wanted to make money. It's not like football, guys, or baseball, or basketball, where you have a team of guys. You don't have a players' association in boxing where they protect you. You're not under contract that way. In boxing, you can't just sit on the injured reserve and still earn that paycheck. You don't get paid unless you fight. And every single fighter that I've asked, they insist to me, no, there's always something nagging. There's always something that's hurting. And I'm never 100%. If I feel 100% and there's nothing bothering me, I almost feel like there's something wrong, like I didn't train hard enough. Guys, this is not an excuse, and this is nothing new to the sport. Every fighter has ailments. If they get the most of themselves in the gym during camp, then chances are there's something, some lingering injury or something really bothering them going into a big fight. But they all want to get paid, so they all go through with it. That's just the way it goes. Ask Floyd Mayweather how his fans or how his hands felt after each camp going into a big fight. Right? That's just the way it goes, guys. So, once again, that's not an excuse. But Vasyl Lomachenko, in my opinion, Rodney, and this is something that the late, great Emanuel Stewart really believed in ardently, right? He believed in, well, it's not a good look if you don't try to avenge your losses. It's not a good look to you. It's not a good look to the fans. It's not a good look for the sport. Have some pride, learn from your mistakes, and go back and try again. But you have to try and avenge your losses, like Lennox Lewis did, like Thomas Hearns did. You have to do it. And Emanuel Stewart really believed in that. And in my opinion, as a champion, as a pound-for-pound fighter, even if he isn't granted a rematch, it's in his best interest, in my opinion, if he requests and starts campaigning for a rematch sometime in 2021 before Teofimo Lopez forever just moves away from the 135-pound division. Because, Rodney, how difficult is it to make 135 when you've moved up to 140?
Oh, man, it's going to be almost damn near impossible, I believe, especially a kid of his frame and his build. It's not going to be easy. So, as I said, the positive thing is they're both under Top Rank's banner, okay? I think it would be great if, possibly Vasyl Lomachenko can maybe go back to 130, end up fighting Shakur Stevenson, if he beats him convincingly and feels that he's done enough and you can get the interest to do it again, maybe, Top Rank can make something happen, It's always a possibility. But as I said, we'll see. It's a very interesting dilemma, and I think he needs to do something, though, that's going to be worthy of a rematch. And I would like to see him go back to 130. Because, as I said, it's just a little bit different at 135. We saw it with Linares, okay, and then we definitely saw it, with Lopez. So that's the thing, though. Oftentimes when Lennox Lewis, Emmanuel, a lot of his fighters, they were heavyweights. They were able to have those rematches because they were heavyweights where they didn't have to worry about making weight or going up or going down. It's a little bit different, Joseph, in this scenario. A little bit different. And,
indeed.
As I said, it could be it's going to have to make financial sense as well. So we'll see what happens, though. We'll see what happens.
Well, in my opinion, this is especially after scoring such a big critical and commercial hit with almost 3 million viewers, this is the biggest money fight for both men still. A rematch would be the biggest money fight. There is no other bigger fight than this in and around 135, 130, or 140. There isn't. Unless Adrian Broner somehow wants to pick on Teofimo Lopez, which isn't happening. Yeah, there isn't a bigger fight at 140, brother. Yeah, I think it makes sense. But let's go back to what you said, Devin Haney. Now, obviously, it's been reported that both guys, quote-unquote, agreed to fight on FaceTime, right? Well, let me tell you why that fight isn't going to happen. Now, you mentioned something very interesting, that Eddie Hearn and Bob Arum, as well as Frank Warren, have already agreed to terms for Tyson Fury versus Anthony Joshua, which have contracts and agreements on separate, much different platforms. One is a subscriber-based platform in DAZN, and another one is ESPN. But just like is in the situation with PBC and Deontay Wilder, that fight is big enough, both monetarily and marketability, right, in terms of earning potential, that you can work something out where both parties can benefit. In this case, this fight's not going to happen, Teofimo Lopez versus Devin Haney. One, after all the money that Eddie Hearn and DAZN have invested in Devin Haney, do you really think that they're going to allow Devin Haney to go compete on ESPN after spending all that money to sign Devin Haney? And also, after scoring such a big hit and being a young superstar, one of the biggest stars of the top-ranked stable currently, do you really think Bob Arum and all the money that ESPN just invested in Teofimo Lopez, do you really think that they're going to be okay with Teofimo Lopez competing on DAZN and helping out that platform? This fight isn't big enough. Devin Haney isn't a ticket seller. Now, would it be a wise investment for Eddie Hearn and DAZN to allow Devin Haney to compete on the bigger U.S. platform like ESPN? Possibly. But I don't think they're going to do that. But let's, just for giggles, right, let's listen to Teofimo Lopez's post-fight commentary regarding a potential fight with, quote-unquote, the email champion. So this is what he had to say post-fight. Quote, "If I took that fight, it's just for bragging rights, just to shut him up and destroy his career. That's really what it is. I really don't care about this guy. That's the type of person I am. I'm not here to see another fighter build up his career, and I'm not going to wait around for him to become a more marketable commodity. If he wants to take that step and fight, I'm more than happy to just take him out the route of what everyone's talking about, saying he's the next Floyd Mayweather and stuff like that. Yeah, get the hell out of there with that bullshit." End quote. Now he went on to say this again, quote, "I don't mind beating the two-time email world champion. You know what I mean? That'll be fine, you know. I know a lot of people are already saying that, you know, this win against Lomachenko is not for the undisputed because of whatever Mauricio Suleiman and whatever he did. But I just got a belt that says franchise world champion for the WBC. And you got a guy like Devin Haney fighting Gamboa, a washed-out Gamboa. just for a record that he wants to keep it safe and pretty, man, I could fight those guys, Haney, Davis, I don't mind, whatever. I really don't care. I don't think any of these guys will step up to the plate, if you ask me. And if they do, they better be ready, because I don't fear any man. I've got the will to win. I told you guys this. I don't care. Line them up. I'm in there to fight, and if you're not there to fight with me, you're going to lose, just like Lomachenko just did, end quote. Starting to sound a little like Clubber Lang from Rocky, isn't he?
Love it. I love it. I really
He is a superstar, Rodney. He is great for the sport of boxing. And best part of it, and this is one thing I loved in watching how riveting this post-fight press conference was. With the Spanish press there, the Hispanic press, he was asked questions in Spanish, and he answered them fluently. This guy is going to be a superstar. He's going to be another Canelo Alvarez. The media loves this guy. He's got that Hispanic fan base. Okay? Those are the guys who are buying tickets to events in America. He is going to be a big star. Top rank. Knows it. He knows it. And if you don't, well, just wait and see. Your final thoughts on this, Rodney, before we move forward, sir?
Well, as I said, a lot of interesting financials and economics that I'm sure are going to start developing behind the scenes very soon. And as I said, whether he goes to 140, stays at 135, agreed to do a catch weight with Lomachenko, Teofimo's in the driver's seat. And as I said, if it makes dollars and it makes sense, and Bob has, both guys under his banner, well, anything is possible. But nevertheless, though, very excited to see what's next, not only for Teofimo, but just to see where Lomachenko goes with his career and rebounds. And as I said, Bob has the stable of fighters in 130, 135, 140 to continue to make some interesting matchups. So we'll be watching. Definitely be staying tuned, sir. Definitely.
Rodney, very well said. And before we move on, it almost slipped my mind. I do have to get your opinion on this. And everyone really values your insight on this show, man, all of our listeners. And you always are capable of seeing the road ahead. So I need to ask you this. Lopez, do you think it's wise for him to move up to 140 pounds right now? I know his dad, and they seem to think so, and that's, I think, what Bob really wants for him if there's not going to be a rematch with Vasyl Lomachenko, right? But this stat really jumps out at me, and certain things that I saw during the fight really worries me about that. Once again, Lomachenko, in just those 5 rounds of action, landed 110 punches, right? One thing that worried me about Teofimo's defense, he seems to be so in love with his offense that he is willing to put himself in harm's way just to be in position to land that counter. Well, that's very sporting of you, and, that's stuff that legends are made of. Just ask Juan Manuel Marquez. Boy, he was willing to take 5 just to land 1, as we saw in Pacquiao 4, right? But when you're fighting a guy like Josh Taylor or fighting a guy like Jose Ramirez, guys who are taller, rangier, guys who can punch, one thing I noticed he needs to do, and we made the comparisons to Floyd earlier in the show, Rodney, but one thing he's not doing that Floyd always did, and one of the reasons why Floyd was so much better than he seems to be defensively, he doesn't lean back when he's implementing the shoulder roll defense. One of the first things, what did Gogi teach you that one day that you asked him to show you how to do the shoulder roll? Do you remember that interview you did with him several years ago? What was the first thing he told you? He told you to, get down almost like, sit down in your stance so they can't push you back. Then if someone's trying to throw punches at you, you lean back at a 45-degree angle, and then you look to counter once you're defensively sound, and you roll away from the shot. One thing he forgets to do, and the reason why he was hit 110 times in 5 rounds, is because he will often be so enamored with his offense, he forgets to lean back. In your opinion, Rodney, is this going to be a problem against punchers like Regis Prograis, Josh Taylor, Jose Ramirez at 140 pounds?
Yeah, I mean, he definitely needs to work on his defense. If there was any part of his game that still needs to be improved, it's definitely, his defense. So, I mean, again, to implement that shoulder roll into your arsenal and really perfect it, it's not the easiest thing to do. I'm not for sure if it's something that he's been doing since he fought in the amateurs, or he just picked it up later on in his career. But nevertheless, it's not second nature to him like Floyd or James Toney. And I would like to see him be able to wrap up a little bit better as well, too. It's a key to wrapping up.
Very good observation.
He's going to have to learn to wrap up. But, again, he's just 23 years old, okay? And if he can make the adjustments like he did in the Lomachenko fight, then it's nothing that this kid can't do if he put his mind to it and stay focused. So all good points. And as I said, these are some of the things that we're going to be looking at as his career continues to unfold and go forth.
Very good. Final thing I need to pick your brain about, and once again, because we value your assessment. In the past, Vasyl Lomachenko, boy, we all saw how he reacts to defeat. Against his only loss before this to Orlando Salido, how did he look in his next several fights? Boy, he really learned from that loss, and he came back even better. At age 32, is he capable of coming back stronger once again? Or are Lomachenko's best days in the rear view? Your final thoughts on this?
Man, I'm gonna say something that Jorge Linares said, and I'm kind of stuck in between his assessment and that, how I can foresee Lomachenko bouncing back. Jorge Linares said that he don't think he would ever be the same after his fight that they had, okay? Mm-hmm. And based on the other night, well, he's somewhat correct. I think if he's going to really continue his career and preserve and excel, he's going to have to go to 130. He's going to have to go to 130. But at 130 is no cakewalk no more, because that's Shakur Stevenson. That young man there. That young man is a dog, man. He got feet. I mean, that's
hey, man.
That's pound for pound material right there. So
hey, brother.
Wait and see.
Hey, don't forget about Carl the Jackal Frampton either. Don't forget about a beast from Mexico named Miguel Burchelt either.
Burchelt, man, those are all. So I think man, they're going to have to really see who they place him in with, and definitely coming off of his surgery, I don't think they should really put him in there with one of those top flight guys, so soon. Let him just get a good tune-up, some good work, and then see where they want to take his career going forth. But I will be watching to see his progress and, whether he ascends or descends. And this is why I always say, man, some of the things that we may have took for granted because we got so used to guys like Oscar De La Hoya, Floyd Mayweather, James Toney, Roy
Manny
Jones,
Pacquiao,
Pernell Whitaker, Manny Pacquiao. Man, you have to have something so great inside of you that can say, you know what, I can start out at 126 or 130 and go up to 147, 154. Or like James Toney, I can start out at 154 and go up there. Man, it's just, again, man, them guys don't grow on trees. You know, so appreciate them while you can view them because, man, they don't grow on trees, sir.
You know what, Rodney? That was extremely well stated, brother. And you know what, man? Just for that, brother, you're going to get the War Week. Round of applause. Because, yeah, what you said is right on the money. I mean, think about what the minimum weight is in boxing, right? What's the minimum weight, brother? That's 105 pounds. Strawweight division. Used to be called strawweight. Now it's the minimum weight. That's 105. That's where Manny Pacquiao started his career.
Yep.
He finally won a title at 154 pounds against Antonio Margarito. That's just ridiculous.
Unheard of, man. Unheard.
Oh, boy, and he's still winning titles at age 42, man. Well, he's not 42 yet. He's going to be 42 in December. But, yeah, he's still the super WBA 147-pound champion at age 41. So, yeah, you're absolutely right. Guys like that, and I think we have been spoiled in the past, thinking that these guys are going to be great forever. Guys, enjoy them while they're here because, yeah, the fight game is not easy. And, oof. Speaking of which, brother, we just saw Floyd Mayweather on Showtime, and this is what I feel most badly about. I know we're a little over time, Rodney. If you could spend another 5 minutes with us, I would like to discuss this. All Access, Gervonta Davis versus Leo Santa Cruz was just premiered this past Friday. And it's not getting any noise. It's not creating any buzz because everyone is still raving about the new kid on the block, Teofimo Lopez. And it's funny. Floyd Mayweather, and it's very revealing, Floyd Mayweather, if you saw it, Floyd Mayweather was kind of laughing, sitting with Gervonta Davis on his private jet, right? Saying, oh, man, you don't fight on free TV no more. You don't fight on free TV anymore. You're a pay-per-view star now. You're the highest paid lightweight in the world. You're not getting, you don't have to fight on free TV anymore. Almost kind of throwing stones at Vasyl Lomachenko and Teofimo Lopez. Do you think they're laughing now, seeing that they just got 3 million viewers on ESPN?
Here's the thing, Joseph. Okay, if Mayweather promotion and Top Rank promotions, no comparison. Okay, no comparison. The way they do business, the way they truly assess their fighters, and how they can set them up long term. As far as Gervonta Davis, he hasn't scaled. Okay, again, he's fighting a guy, and I got much respect for Santa Cruz, but it's true. Man, this guy, Santa Cruz, really, man, to me, was at his best at 122 and 126, and if he struggles with him, then how can he, continue to try to justify a pay-per-view star? And I think the numbers will eventually dictate if he's really pay-per-view worthy. And I don't see them numbers being that great, especially in this economic climate with the COVID and things like that. The demand is not there, and like you say, man, we're still reveling and buzzing about what just happened this past Saturday night, sir.
Yeah, and I tell you what, I was enthralled when I watched All Access, Davis versus Santa Cruz. It's captivating. It's so well done. And the backstory of both fighters, so revealing. It's so well made, and no one's seen it. That's the worst part about this, Rodney. If you watch this, you really feel attached to both fighters. This is so well done. Showtime, I don't know how much longer they're going to be in the sport of boxing, but once they're out of the business, which I think is inevitable, right? This is imminent. This time next year, you're not going to see them involved in boxing any longer. That's my guess, my professional opinion. I'm really going to miss their coverage. All Access, this is as good as it gets. This is very reminiscent of an HBO Ross Greenberg countdown special. It's so well done. And you may not like or you may hate Gervonta Davis or you may love the guy, but you know what? After watching this, you respect him because of everything that he's had to endure. It's absolutely incredible. On the special, they do a spotlight of his relationship with head trainer Calvin Ford and the fact that Gervonta Davis, his dad was sent to jail, and his mom was a drug addict. So CPS went in and, took parental control over a 5-year-old Gervonta Davis. Well, his trainer, Calvin Ford, started pretty much raising him from his foster home and taking him to the gym every day. And like guys and like great boxing guys and mentors like Barry Hunter, Mike Stafford, Emmanuel Stewart, Calvin Ford basically raised this kid and kept him off the streets. And now look at him. Both guys, and it's very touching. You guys have to watch this. And then they show a spotlight on Leo Santa Cruz, talk about his struggles over the past 5 years with his dad, and all the health problems he's had, cancer. And he's still, like when they were filming this, they show his dad in the hospital. This is a very motivated and hungry Leo Santa Cruz. He's saying that this is the fight that he's been wanting for the past 5-6 years. Well, now he's got it. And to be honest with you, brother, it's a damn shame that there's so much going on right now to take attention from this fight, because after watching this All Access show, guys, I'm all in, man. I can't wait to see how this unfolds in less than 2 weeks. But once again, we're going to go back to this. Rodney, your thoughts. How do you think this pay-per-view fares? How many units or purchases do you think they sell? Because, once again, they've got Usyk versus Chisora on the same day being broadcast by DAZN. And then at the same time, they've got the return of top pound-for-pound fighter Naoya Inoue taking on hard-punching Maloney in his first fight back since competing in a Fight of the Year with Nonito Donaire. And that's on free ESPN again. That's on at the same time as Gervonta Davis versus Leo Santa Cruz. And to be honest with you, from what I'm hearing, ticket sales aren't very good at the Alamodome. Everyone's been complaining that they're overpriced. Like when you look at how much ringside seats are, and even the cheapest seats are $150, Rodney.
Yeah, here's the thing, just to give you some insight. Last year around this time, I was getting ready to go see Canelo and Kovalev on Halloween weekend. Okay? Here's Canelo and Kovalev, and I went to that fight. Well, combined with a superstar like Canelo Alvarez in Vegas, Halloween weekend, it has all the elements of just just fireworks. And if I'm not mistaken, they had a big UFC fight that night as well, too. And it still fared well because it's Canelo Alvarez, okay?
Yep.
Like Canelo Alvarez. You're putting way too much expectations on Gervonta Davis to garner that same type of result, okay? It's not going to happen. It's not going to work. And it's really, I think Gervonta Davis, now that I have more, insight on him and just seeing his story, and even, Leo Santa Cruz to see what he's going through with his dad. It's a real good backstory, man. It's very compelling, and it piques your interest. And, again, as a diehard, I'm looking forward to the fight. But you're trying to put it on a platform that, I don't think that's the problem, Joseph. So, as I said, I think the numbers are going to be bad. They're not going to be anywhere near what they expected. And again, as I say, by us being in a COVID, there's so many restrictions that they have to be concerned with, where maybe they didn't have to, worry about when Gervonta first fought his pay-per-view, I think when he was in Atlanta. Just totally different times, totally different scenarios. and I think it's going to flop. And I hate to say that as being a boxing diehard. I want it to do well, but I just don't see it. I mean, we live in San Antonio, Joseph. Have you seen a lot of buzz? Have you seen coverage from Kensaw?
Look, I'm very good friends with John Whistler, the boxing writer for the San Antonio Express News. Nada. Nothing. We're all very good friends with the boxing media here in San Antonio. Nothing, Rodney.
Yep.
And it's less than 2 weeks until the event. Next week is already going to be fight week, brother.
Yep.
Nada. And I think the biggest problem is, like you just said, COVID. Trying to contact Magna Media and Kelly Swanson and get us credentialed for this fight, they're not letting anyone cover this live. They're letting only AP sources, guys like Kevin Iole, guys like Keith Eidick, guys like Doug Fisher, maybe Steve Kim. That's it. It's going to be a skeleton crew out there. No one's going to be covering this fight. That's when you're trying to attract ticket sellers or ticket purchasers. You need media blowing up this event. That's what these events have been sorely lacking. And unfortunately, this isn't on free TV. And I'll say this, and most people aren't really pointing to this either. And let me get your opinion on this. Showtime, since the advent of Netflix and Disney Plus, and Hulu and Amazon Prime, Showtime, their platform just doesn't have the same juice, man.
Yeah, agreed.
When's the last time they've actually had good numbers on the Showtime platform?
Right. As I said, I think the platform is not at its height, and it's going to reflect. And I mean, it's been reflecting, to be quite honest, though. And but I think this is really going to tip the iceberg as far as how Showtime has fallen from the ranks. And as I alluded to earlier about ESPN and Top Rank success, well, again, you can have the basic cable, basic subscription. You don't have to pick and choose between Showtime and HBO, and you get such a great product, though. And sometimes you got to understand that, man. Things change. And I think right now, if I'm looking at it, ESPN is leading the way in boxing, just how HBO did away with boxing. You're very so much correct when you said you can see Showtime seeing their days are numbered. Their days are numbered, and it's going to be indicative of these fight numbers that's going to be reflected after this pay-per-view event on Halloween.
Agreed. And so this weekend, Rodney, and we're not going to make any predictions on these fights because there's no point. We already know who's going to win. These are all wide margin matchups, right? But you've got two kind of limping platforms that are going to be on Friday and Saturday, right? On October 23rd in Mexico City, DAZN is going to be featuring or staging that fight. You're going to be broadcasting it in North America, and it's the return of Roman Chocolatito Gonzalez versus Israel Gonzalez. Once again, this is just to set up the eventual unification bout between Juan Francisco Estrada and Roman Gonzalez. Because in the main event of the evening, you've got rematch, great style matchup. It's going to be a lot of fun to watch. Juan Francisco Estrada versus Carlos Cuadras. But you already know who's going to win these fights. Once again, and to start off the tripleheader, you've got Julio Cesar Martinez going to be defending his WBC flyweight title against the very young and overmatched Moises Galleros. Right? And so we're going to be interested to see how the ratings are and how those perform, but more to the point, right, and more to what we're discussing. Saturday night from Uncasville, Connecticut, from the MGM Foxwoods, Showtime is going to be featuring in their main event of the evening the return of Sergey Lipinets. He's going to be taking on Custio Clayton. Now listen to this. This fight's going to be for the vacant IBF interim welterweight title. What the hell, Rodney? It's honestly, I like Sergey Lipinets. I think he's an exciting fighter at 147 pounds. Tough guy. And, boy, he pretty much beat up Lamont Peterson, sent him into retirement. But I'll be very surprised if this broadcast does over 200,000. And that's on regular subscriber showtime. Your thoughts and your prediction as to how you think this weekend's going to go in terms of ratings?
Well, as I said, I like Lipinets too, but I could see if they had him on, a few years ago when he destroyed Peterson, where they could build some momentum. As I said, you're putting responsibilities on these fighters to do somewhat like flagship numbers or like what a flagship fighter would do. And as I said, if you're a diehard, you'll catch it, but it's not going to move the needle. It's not going to move the needle. Showtime, for the longest, they've been able to pretty much be piggyback off of Floyd Mayweather's success or Al Heyman. And I just think it's just starting to fizzle, though, Joseph. You can't. They're not building up that groundswell of support, and the interest is not there. And I just think what happened this past Saturday night, though, with with ESPN and Top Rank, boy, that's going to be a tough act to follow, Joseph. Good luck.
Very well stated, brother. Last thing I'm going to ask you, man, tonight, because we've kept you way over time, and we really appreciate you spending this hour and almost 20 minutes with us, man. Just out of curiosity, I failed to ask you this. How did you score this past Saturday night's fight between Lopez and Lomachenko?
I had it 7-5. I could have went 8-4, but I thought Lomachenko really decided to come on late. But I went ahead and scored it 7-5, and I wrestled whether I should have it 8-4, but I went it with 7-5. But to me, it was a convincing 7-5 win for Lopez.
Yeah, the right man won. I scored the bout just like Tim Cheatham scored it 8-4. I gave Teofimo Lopez the first 7 rounds, scored 8 through 11, those 4 rounds consecutively for Lomachenko. And, yeah, the final round was the cherry on top for Teofimo.
Yep.
I thought he did a great job making that final stand. And that's why I'm thinking, Rodney, I think there may be a rematch in store for fans if Lomachenko wants to go that route. Because tell me, brother, correct me if I'm wrong, those last 5 rounds were riveting, brother.
Oh, man. Breathtaking. Loved it.
Your final thoughts, brother, before we bid everyone a good Tuesday evening.
Well, man, first of all, I just want to say I hope as all boxing diehards and casual fans, mainstream fans, we can appreciate what just happened this past Saturday night. I hope it raises the bar to where we will have the best start fighting the best and really give the fans what they want. And like Teofimo said, he's not afraid to see his old goal. He's not worried about getting the best purse. I love that mentality, and I just hope that, permeates throughout the sport going forward. And I just want to say, and just to piggyback on what you said, yes, those last 4 or 5 rounds that we had was very riveting, great action that, man, just really, it made my weekend, though, man, and I'm still just thinking about it, man. It just really gives me goosebumps, man, just to see witness what we saw. And as I said, we can possibly see it again, but let Vasyl go back to 130, let him heal, let him get his feet wet, and they can always do it again as a farewell song and bring it to. It's not hard to make because they're both under the same banner. But in the meantime, let Teofimo just, bask in the glory of him beating the best pound-for-pound fighter in the sport. And everything that he gets, he deserves it. And I can't wait to see him back in the ring And there's so much boxing coming on that we can look forward to in this fourth quarter. Very excited about Chisora and Usyk. And again, Usyk he's great, but man, don't get me wrong now. Chisora, he can be a murderous puncher. So don't just count him out yet, because he is a murderous puncher that if he lands, it can change the fight, though. So all in all, man, so much boxing to talk about. We can go on for hours and hours. I gotta go. It was great night, man. I'm excited, and I just hope that, man, we can do it again 7 days from now. I'm looking forward to it. And, yeah, it's been a blast.
Guys, he's Rodney Green. You can catch him here every Tuesday night on Boxing 411. Thank you so much for your insight, Rodney. It's always valued, brother. In case you missed this show, guys, you can check it out in the morning on our YouTube platform, Warweek Radio on YouTube. Don't forget to comment, like, and subscribe. But, guys, that's going to just about do it. We want to thank Mr. Rodney Green for visiting with us and sharing his insight and his wisdom. Guys, in case you missed part of this show, check it out tomorrow morning on YouTube. That's going to just about do it, guys. On behalf of Mr. Green, I'm Joseph Herron. You've been listening to Warweek Radio and Boxing 411. Have a great Tuesday evening, everybody.